Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'll be taking another little Friday look at how the Brexit media are trying to spin events or cover up disasters related to our extreme Tory Brexit. In this one, I'd like to kick off with the nonsense of the way they are reporting, well, the government's latest distraction on Imperial measurements this time. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the government have announced that they may be reversing the progress we've made all too slowly on units of measures. There are plans to allow the use of imperial measures on food items again, like, units of mass. Now, we're a bit of a nonsense country when it comes to units of measure because we use both metric and imperial. The issue is we created the imperial system, but we also helped promote the use of the metric measurement system well over 100 years ago. I mean, let's be honest, imperial measurements are a complete nonsense. You give me the most jingoistic Brexit supporting fan of imperial measures that's screaming at the screen right now insisting that imperial is better than metric. They cannot even use imperial measures. You stick one in front of me, I'll ask them simple questions about it. They will not know. Metric is just objectively better, which is why we use it in scientific research and engineering. How many miles in 8,200 yards? What's that? Come on. How many miles in 8,200 yards? Oh, bloody hell, I need a calculator. Most of them probably don't even know how many yards are in 1 mile. They don't know. How many kilometres in 8,200 metres? 8.2, quick as a flash. Easy. It's a piece of piss. Next, the government will be taking us back to 240 pence in the pound. Oh, but why stop there? Why not crowns and groats while we're at it? Actually, while we're on the subject of crowns, they're also doing their nuts over the prospect of being able to have the crown symbol stamped on pint glasses as well. This is a bit like the blue passport thing. We always could do that. Oh, EU stopped us doing that. No, they didn't. In fact, I didn't even know that the crown stamps had ever gone off pint glasses, but it certainly had nothing to do with EU rules. You can stamp whatever imagery you like on your pint glass. You can photograph your bare arse and stamp that on a glass. EU don't care. But pints, yeah, we are odd. We have pints of beer, we have litres of milk. We have miles per hour, but square metres of carpet. When the news broke, the first thing I said, that as a math teacher of some years, the most pointless thing I ever had to teach was converting between imperial and metric units. Shouldn't be necessary. Only in this country is it necessary. But the second most pointless thing I ever had to teach was converting between imperial and other imperial measures. Nobody finds metric difficult. Everyone finds imperial incredibly difficult to convert between. I'm actually very good at arithmetic, and it slows me down having to switch between ounces and pounds or yards and miles. But I can do it. I can do it without a calculator. I can do it in my head. It just takes me time. Most people couldn't even do it with a calculator. But grams and kilograms, or metres and kilometres, we can all do that. Piece of piss. Of course they are. The system was designed by people with brains who sat down and said, units of measurement are no good for scientific research. We need a proper one. But the Brexit media are all over this. I'm going to start with the Express first because they can always be relied upon to go absolutely insane, right over the top. Remainer uproar as imperial units return. No idea what anything weighs. That's their headline. Well, let's look at this. I'm a Remainer. If we must still keep using that anachronistic term. As such, I also follow a lot of other like-minded people, social media echo chambers and all that. I cannot remember seeing a single example of outrage from anyone about this news. It was 100% ridicule. And do you know what? We will know what things weigh, because just because the government may allow the adoption of imperial units for mass again, or weight for those who didn't pay attention in physics, doesn't mean it's going to become widespread. The thing is that the metric system is still required throughout the rest of Europe. So food producers in this country are still going to need the metric masses on their packaging. Do you think they are going to go to the expense of working out a conversion and creating new packaging, more specifically, just for the British market? They need a whole new production line. They have to create a whole entire new production line to create new packaging. You think they want to do that? Think again. All the packaging on our food is still going to be metric. we're still going to know what things weigh. The only impact that I can see is a few jingoistic grocers living in xenophobic leave areas will want to change for their shops. Oh, yeah, British. Producers won't change. A few shops and market stalls may. That's it. And as most people don't get their produce from these places and have a choice to go elsewhere if they do, the impact is minimal. Remainers aren't outraged by this. It's only Brexiteers who have any sort of emotional connection to the news. In fact, the concept of a Remainer being upset by this is a complete nonsense, because those of us paying attention, I will accept there will be Remainers not paying close attention, but those of us who are paying attention know there's nothing to worry about. The only disappointing aspect of this news is it'll slow down progress on getting rid of more Imperial measures. I'll tell you what we should do. We should have a fun referendum. We should have another referendum and make it fun. Put it to the people. What system do we want, metric or Imperial? But for anyone interested in voting on this, you don't get to just tick a box on a ballot paper. No. You're going to sit an exam. Equal numbers of questions with marks, identical questions effectively, but with one set wanting metric conversions and the other one uses Imperial measures. Whichever one gets the most marks wins. Imperial would be abolished overnight. Now, the Daily Mail were less insane than the Express in their reporting of it, as is often the case. They simply reported it as a way of removing or improving legislation originally from Brussels. Is this legislation from Brussels? It's not always in our interest. We're going to have a look at it. David Frost, the unelected Brexit minister who announced it, seemed to imply that the switch to more metric measures was somehow not in the UK interest. Now, don't get me wrong. I remember when this change was made. And I remember grocers were not happy about the expense that they went to with having to swap over scales and tills and things. They needed new equipment. Fair enough. But I remember no objections based on the measures themselves. No one said, metric, don't get it. I also remember them stiffing us on pick and mix. I was at that age. They switched from, it used to be so much per quarter of a pound, so much per quarter, to so much per 100 grams. But they kept the amount the same. They kept the cost the same. So that swindled me out of 12.5 grams. Thank you very much. But I forgive them because, they did have to pay more for new equipment. I don't know if there was a grant actually for that or not. I was too young to be paying that much detailed attention to what was going on. I was interested, but not paying that much detailed attention. But that is another point to bear in mind. So let's say you had a grocer who was all up for this change. Oh yeah, back to the old pounds and ounces, great. And they wanted to go for it. There'd be an outlay of cash, wouldn't there? Now, against a background of food shortages, which particular fresh food, which means prices are already going up and grocers are going to struggle to compete even more, do they really want to refit their shops with new scales and tills? Like I say, I don't know if shops got government or EU funding to help with the change back when it was happening, but I'm willing to bet they won't this time. They certainly won't get EU funding. But even our government have already shown themselves to be unwilling to help fund businesses who have been screwed over by this extreme Tory Brexit, the ones who've got no choice. They're hardly going to give anything for new equipment that they don't even need, because the government aren't proposing enforcing the use of Imperial measures. That would be stupid for two reasons. One, as I've already said, we need to try and sell some of our food produce abroad in order to make some money. That needs packaging and other paperwork with metric measures. You don't want to do it twice. You'd just be putting them out of business if you force them to have a second production line just for British, the British market. And then secondly, because this extreme Tory Brexit is causing us to significantly reduce the amount of food we can produce, we are now more reliant on food imports. We're already heavily reliant on food imports before. We are now more reliant on food imports than we were before Brexit. Do you think EU food producers are going to go to the expense of having Imperial measures on their goods? Think again. They'll just abandon the British market like so many producers and traders already have done. And this is being billed in the Mail as a bonfire of red tape. This isn't a bonfire of red tape. This would be a way to introduce more red tape. The EU single market existed purely for the removal of bureaucracy. Traders are increasingly seeing this. I shall be talking in a video tomorrow about a few examples. But too many people still believe the lies that the EU was all about red tape. Leave the EU to get rid of the red tape. It wasn't. It was about free trading. We've got way more red tape. We can see it weekly reported by businesses about all the red tape they're struggling with now. If this proposal goes ahead, it will mean more red tape, not less. The more Brexit you have, the more red tape you have. It's really that simple. But in this case, it should only mean more red tape for those stupid enough to want to take advantage, if that's the right term. Everyone else will just carry on as normal. Oh, we can switch to Imperial, but we don't have to. Right, we won't. They can ignore it completely. Which is why it's only open to ridicule, not upset. It's not an outrageous policy. It's just a childish attempt to stoke the culture war that the government need in order to win the general election that looks increasingly likely to be held within the next year. It's all they have. Brexit is a disaster. Their COVID response is a disaster. Their foreign policy is a disaster. There is no plan to level up the country, and they wouldn't do it if there were. Stoking outrage, dividing the nation, is all they have. Don't vote for the Progressive Alliance. They want to take away your pints. We'll make sure you get to keep your British pint, and we'll give you back your British pounds and ounces as well. That will probably be their slogan in 2021. Vote Tory for the British pounds. In fact, you watch this. This won't be a change they make anytime soon. They may not make it at all. I'll bet you they're just saving this for the manifesto. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.